Hey everybody, I am Jenny here. Welcome to our live recruiter question and answer session here. I am here joined by Henry. He is an instructor, a driver instructor here at our Green Bay training center. So today we're going to cover our simulators. So we're going to go over some things that our drivers may want to know about. So first off, I know they initially look like video games. So can you tell us a little bit of what a simulator is?
So they look a lot like an arcade game, but in fact, they're far more sophisticated. The whole point of these is to help our drivers understand how to deal with certain situations that might not be a good thing to do out on the road. Like, let's go skid a truck. That might not be a good idea to do out on the highway. And there are skid pads and that sort of thing. But the fact is we can do that even more efficiently here on a simulator. So it's got all the controls for a truck. It has multiple screens so they get the feeling of being in the truck and the sensations of skidding, for instance, or other procedures that otherwise we want them to learn before they actually get out in the truck.
Yeah, a little bit safer that way, huh?
Quite a bit safer.
Perfect. Now, a lot of our new drivers come in and they get to experience or use the simulator here. Now, is this only going to be for inexperienced drivers, or who all gets to enjoy to use the simulator?
So all of our inexperienced recruits who come in as students and then they're working through our system, they will all drive the simulator at least 3 different scenarios. And then our inexperienced students are in addition to that, we run our new CAT students, okay, and that stands for Commercial Apprenticeship Training.
Yeah,
okay,
our
CAT.
CDL apprenticeship program.
CDL apprenticeship program.
Comment about it if you're interested in obtaining your CDL.
Yep. And then also our owner operators come in and do some scenarios with this as well. We want everybody who's driving a Schneider truck, and particularly a Schneider trailer, to be well versed in, for instance, how to deal with a skid, how to deal with going downhill and not being able to use your engine brake or your cruise control. So you have to do what's called snub braking, which is a sequence of braking and then getting off the brake, that sort of thing. And then we also train them during the winter. We have some winter scenarios to help them understand not just about skid training, but also how to deal with the different kinds of situations that occur with ice and snow.
Now, how many scenarios are included in this simulator?
There can be literally thousands of different ones. We build our own, so we choose what we want to have.
Okay.
The curriculum department sets up the parameters that we want to have, and then we put those out for every one of the simulators to use.
Wow, interesting. Yeah. That is a lot of different scenarios here.
But typically they have just a few.
Yeah, okay. That the drivers will actually
they'll drive as many as 6 sometimes, but typically during the not the winter season, we're training for 3. And then if students come in during that time period from November through March, then we're teaching them the winter scenarios as well.
Now, a common question that we get sometimes when we're going through the hiring process is, if I fail or if I crash the truck in the simulator, am I gonna get kicked out of the program? What happens then?
No, that's the good news is we can just hit reset and off you go again until you get it right.
Yeah,
and sometimes we have folks who just go whipping down the road and doing 40 miles an hour in icy conditions, and they know just what to do, and they get to the end of the simulation and move on to the next one. And there are other folks who take a couple more sequences and they get through it, and then they're on to the next thing. Sometimes those folks are maybe a little better trained, right? Because they had to deal with it, and they're like, oh my gosh, really screwed that up.
Yeah.
And we show them how to do it right.
Yeah, they kind of get to see the different ways of trying to maneuver themselves.
What works? And what doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what would be some advantages that you can think of that helps the simulators help with, as far as instead of training in the real world versus using the simulator?
Well, one of the things about skid training in particular is that if you did not have didn't have the opportunity when you were in your school, maybe before you came here and you got your CDL, perhaps you didn't have the opportunity to do that, and you never really got to skid a truck on a skid pad. So when that happens, what happens when you get out there on the highway and it starts to go sideways for you, literally? So by teaching them a skid training program here, for instance, on I-43, shortly after I started driving, I had driven the entire summer, and I got into winter, and we had a major winter storm. Gee, that never happens in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing was true later on. I knew what to do with on that. Remember the April 15th storm we had a few years ago that was the blizzard?
Yeah.
I was driving from Chicago on that day. My daughter was actually on the air over at WBAY that day as a meteorologist. So I texted her before I left, and then stopped and checked again and said, okay, How's it looking? Not so good, Dad. Okay, great. Well, that skid training actually helped because I could recognize before the truck really started to get out of position that we were getting close.
Yeah.
And I don't need to be close. I like to be backed off a couple notches so that the truck's not going to be out of control. But it helped me understand through the simulation
Yeah.
that that possibility existed, that if I kept going at that speed, I was going to have a problem.
Now, I bet you it probably saved Schneider a whole bunch of trucks instead of actually getting trucks being wasted out on the road. We can practice here.
Yeah, we can practice here. We're saving money. We're potentially saving lives.
Yeah.
We're potentially saving drivers' careers in that they're not going to have an accident because they know, for instance, when they lose a steer tire, that they're going to do something that's counterintuitive. They have to step on the accelerator hard and then get off of it after they regain control. Well, that's not something you would normally think of doing. But by teaching it here in the simulator, they see that and they go, oh, okay, now hopefully they'll remember that. God forbid they should have a steer tire blowout, but it happens, and that's why we train for it.
Yeah.
So they're ready.
Awesome, perfect. Well, thank you. Now, are these simulators here automatic, or can they function both automatic and manual?
They can function both, but the fact is we have fewer than 30 trucks in the fleet that are manuals. So all of our simulators are set up to be auto.
Perfect.
Makes it easy. It takes one less distraction out of the whole mix. Just drive the truck.
Yeah, exactly. Now, have you gotten any feedback from drivers? Like, what do they say to you about the simulators? Do they like it? Do they think that it's maybe, I guess, what do they tell you?
So what we've been hearing back from our students in particular, sometimes we get to see them when they come back after they've been on the road, is exactly that, hey, this really helped me understand going down a mountain on a rainy day. Well, I couldn't use my engine brake. I'm not supposed to use my engine brake. I'm not going to be using my cruise control because it's raining. So how do I control my speed? And we teach them that technique here on the simulator. They're ready to go when they get out on the road. Sometimes with their training engineer, they get the opportunity to do that. Not always. In my case, I drove a lot of the central United States with my training engineer. And then my first trip out the door was to go through the Appalachian Mountains on a rainy day.
Yeah.
You better believe I was sitting there looking through my Highway to Success book, trying to bone up on what I was supposed to be doing the next day.
Yeah.
But I remembered my simulator training too.
That definitely makes a lot of sense. Now, with our current drivers, I know sometimes they want to get a little refresher. So do you think it's beneficial our current drivers can reach out to their driver leader and kind of get set up with something like this?
Yeah, that's exactly what they can do. So if you're an experienced driver, you've already been driving for Schneider, and you think, hey, I'm not sure exactly how to do that mountain thing, or I just want a little bit more about skids. Check in with your driver team leader, or your driver, what do we call them now? Driver team leaders, DTLs, right? Check in with your DTL and let them know that you'd like to do that kind of training. They can route you through an operating center that has a simulator and then get that training done. And you'll be better for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Now, can we check out one of these simulators here?
So what we're going to have you do is actually do the skid training. So if you'd like to sit down right here, I'm going to slide out of the way just a little bit. As you can see, the tractor is basically the same as what you'd be sitting in if you were driving one of ours out there on the road. Go ahead and put your seatbelt on.
Put our seatbelt on.
Right.
And I locked it in place.
There you go. Yeah, it does exactly what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And go ahead and put your foot on the brake. And then you can start the engine on the left-hand side. There we go. That sound you hear is it's simulating that does not have enough air yet to run the system. So we're just going to wait and watch our gauges right here as we build a little air pressure, virtually speaking there. Okay, so now they're coming up. We're going to let them go up a little bit more. But what we're going to do here is, you can see your screens. Let's assume that this is black ice, one of our least favorite things to drive in, right? So we'll assume it's all black ice. There are no dry patches on this. And you've got a target that's flashing above the lane. That's to help you stay oriented as you go driving down the road. If you start to feel, or it looks like the truck is starting to divert a little bit, it's going to the left or the right, gently steer back towards that target. You don't want to jerk the wheel, because if you jerk the wheel, you can lose traction on your steer tires, and that makes the whole situation much worse, right? So we got enough air now, so let's go ahead and push this in gear. So we're just going to push that forward, and then we're going to release our brakes by pushing these two buttons in. There you go. And then just take your foot off the brake and put it on the accelerator, nice and gentle. The biggest thing about driving in slippery conditions is everything needs to be done very smoothly, very gently, even braking. So we're going to try and get ourselves up to about 30 miles an hour. I'm going to slide out just a little bit here. And 30 is plenty fast enough. Trust me. In a moment or two. There you go. So gently steer back. Very nice. And you can back off on the throttle. What you want to avoid is stomping on the brakes.
Oh, okay.
Stomping on the brakes is bad. Because again,
there I go again.
and there it goes. Yeah. But you can see how visually, without even actual sensations, if you couple this later on, when you're out on the road and you see that visual start to change, and you can kind of feel it in your fanny. You know, you usually feel that little skid sideways a little bit. There you go. Bring her back. Bring her back.
No.
Oh, we're going to get a post. Oh, you missed it. Good job. All right. But nice and gentle. You saw how gentle works, right?
Yeah.
Used every bit of space that was available there to make that happen. And we're going to come back to the right real gently. See if we can keep her in our lane too, because pretty soon some crazy person is going to go driving by you here in the simulator, going way faster than they should in slippery conditions. There, that's pretty good. If you look in your left mirror, you can see you're just off the dash line. If you look in your right mirror, you're just off the dash line. So you're nicely centered, right? Yeah, pretty good. Oops.
There we go again.
I happen to know a recruiter who might be able to get you a job if you're interested.
Call us at 1-800-44-PRIDE.
There you go. That's about as fast as you want to go in those conditions. Yeah.
Overspeeding.
I mean, you can go as fast as you want, but I trust me, it's going to go to heck in a handbasket a lot quicker when that happens.
It doesn't feel like it's going as fast, you
Right.
know, but
I also want to compliment you on using two hands. One of the big things we train folks when we're driving these, oh, you're going to get the motorcyclist. Oh, you got the motorcycle. So here's the good news. So you crashed the motorcycle. He kept going, didn't he? But I can actually reset your failures. So now your truck's as good as new, just like that.
So I didn't fail.
So you didn't fail. You learned something new.
Oh, wait.
But you do want to avoid palming your turns. So when you palm a turn, just using your one hand, you actually tend to over control. We really want to encourage drivers not to do that. Two hands on the wheel is how you're going to maintain control. It also helps maintain control should you lose a steer tire. If you've only got one hand on the wheel and you lose a steer tire, yike.
Oh, that was
and there we go.
That was a bad one.
All righty.
All right.
That happens, unfortunately. But again, you kind of get a sense of what it's like when the truck starts to diverge. You need to get on it right away, right? All right, let's put it right back in neutral here. I'll set those brakes, and you can shut down the switch on that side. And there we go. And I can even reset. So one of the things, I'm not sure how much time you have, but you're good?
Perfect. Yeah, we got a little
All
bit of time left. So that was really interesting.
Thanks.
You can feel the truck kind of move on you.
Mhm.
You can feel the steering wheel on there. It's nice to be able to see the mirrors on there and kind of keep yourself gauged. But yeah, once you lose control, it goes very fast. So you got to think real quick. Otherwise,
yeah. But you have to resist that temptation to jerk the wheel back, right? Because you see it start to go and you're like, ooh, I'm going to do it.
Yes.
And when you do that, what happens is you lose the traction on those steer tires.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, a tractor trailer doesn't skid like a regular vehicle that's all got everything straight, right? Because the trailer always knows one direction, that way. It's always going to go straight. And if you turn the tractor, it just knows straight, and it's going to jackknife the truck. You can jackknife a truck at any speed.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen at 5 miles an hour.
Because
the trailer's going that way, it's that slippery that the guy jerks the wheel to the right, and the trailer says, nope, going that way, and slid up against the curb at 5 miles an hour. Did you hear anything? No. Did it scare him? Yeah,
I'd definitely rather do it in the simulator than be in real life going through something like that. So
that's exactly right.
Thank you for letting me do that.
Sure.
What facilities have a simulator?
So operating centers, as I understand it, we're still working on repopulating some of our simulators. We're in the process of updating simulators. So not every operating center has it. You want to make sure that your driver team leader ensures that there is a simulator at that OC before they try and book you into one of those.
Definitely. And you could talk to your recruiter about it. We can go ahead and work with our operations to make sure that we get you at a location that has a simulator if that's something you're interested in.
Yep.
So thank you for joining our live here today. You can continue to put your comments in our chat messages there. We'll make sure to follow up with you guys after the live. But again, thank you for watching our live. If you guys are interested, you can definitely check out schneiderjobs.com or give us a call at 1-800-44-PRIDE, and we can give you a little bit more information then too.